What's up, everybody? Welcome to the Geekiverse. We are talking about Batman vs. Superman: Dawn of Justice, our official spoiler cast here today. So, my Geekiverse panelists: Beta.
What's going on?
Seth.
Hey.
Jamie.
Hi.
Hey. Pawlak. The Grumpy Geek.
What's happening?
And Brunner 2.0, Trevor. First thoughts on the movie. I want everyone to use your thumbs and describe in some scenario if you liked it. This is mine.
Yeah.
Can I do? Oh, I was about to say that. Can I sideways?
I'm gonna turn it as
I'm gonna be at
6.
I was thinking about it. I didn't know if it'd be acceptable.
1.5 thumbs.
Okay.
I kind of like that. Actually, I like
So
that idea.
1.5 thumbs.
Yeah.
1 2/3
One up and down.
It's these.
So this.
Is this like your approval rating and your
I choose the low line.
Not so sure.
It was a half and half.
What are the two halves?
I probably would have done this.
Okay.
Okay, now we're getting ridiculous.
If we're doing like stars, 6 between a 6 and a 7 for me.
Seth gave us the official review. He gave it an 8 out of 10. Said a thrilling yet imperfect mythic cornerstone for DC's new universe. So first thoughts, Seth. What's your first reaction, your first impression of the movie as a whole?
As a whole, I feel that it is a fairly solid, serious in tone, exciting world-building movie. I feel it goes slightly too far with the world-building, but not too far. I feel like the serious tone is a really good use of the source material in a way to kind of differentiate themselves from the other comic book movies out there. Could use maybe a little bit more levity, but
Sure.
I feel like aside from some plot pacing and editing issues, and just some underdevelopment, a little bit of the Batman Superman arcs, I feel like it delivered on most of what it set out to do, and I thought it was really good.
So one might say whelmed.
No. This is above the medium whelm mark. This is on my whelmometer. Maybe that's how I should rate movies from now on.
Yes.
How high does it rate on the whelmometer? It's a pretty. I'm pretty whelmed. I'm
Kinda
almost overwhelmed, but not quite.
I think this gives me everything I need to know.
That's the motion of the whelmometer.
Oh, boy.
Turn it
Make that
on.
a joke.
Grumpy, I want to go to you next. What first thoughts out of this?
I was definitely only whelmed. It to me was kind of dull. It didn't really move along. You got really 3 superheroes in it. I don't feel like we had enough action in it. I didn't like the serious tone for one reason. Like, I'm used to that with Batman. I'm thrilled by it with Batman. Superman has always been a much more optimistic character to me. He's come to Earth. He's adopted these people who are clearly his inferior, and you know, he wants to do everything he can to save them. He's always had a really optimistic tone, and I feel like that we moved too far in the dark direction, even for Superman. I didn't see any optimism in him, and quite frankly, after I saw this movie, I went back and watched Man of Steel, and I felt the same way about Man of Steel. I didn't feel like there was an optimistic Superman, and that's what I've always felt about Superman. And not that we always have to do it the same way we always do it, but that character to me is an optimistic, much more a lighter character than Batman.
So I think that ties into a little bit of the marketing for this, which I want to come back to. But still, first impressions, Beta.
I can't give Superman a fair swing because I didn't see Man of Steel, so I came at this without watching the prequel, the setup for this.
Same.
And my issue, I'm a big Bat fan, and I didn't love the way they did Batman. I really like The Dark Knight Returns, which is kind of the source material they're pulling for this Batman, and if this is Bruce Wayne at his pinnacle, maybe not physique, but intelligence, he wasn't smart enough for me. He was not the world's greatest detective. He was the world's...
I don't think either one of them were smart enough in this. Like,
No.
there's a lot of the plot hinges on them being stupid.
Yeah,
You know what I mean?
and being outfoxed and outrun by Wonder Woman. Wonder Woman. She took the show for me. I think Wonder Woman was the best developed superhero in this movie. But
Alfred and Batman, and that whole thing felt wrong. It didn't feel like, again, it's a new developed universe, it's a new Batman, and I am a fan of the Christopher Nolan, but I'm also a fan of just the character himself, and I feel like Batman was just underserved here. There's a lot of complexity. They feel like they're telling a story backwards, which is going to be interesting. We did get we open with the same opening almost as Batman Begins, where he falls on the well. I don't need to see that again.
I turned to Jamie immediately. I'm like, we don't need to see this story again.
But they did. They did do. They made a lot of cool harking back to the pearls breaking, which they had in Batman Begins. But this was more like from The Dark Knight Returns, which is pretty cool. But again,
it ties into the actual plot later. The
it
origin,
does,
which is so.
But then Batman gets like lifted up by the pets. It just in building Batman, it just seemed rushed, and it seemed like he wasn't a pinnacle Batman. This is not a Batman that is at least at his prime intelligence, and I think we could have had that with an older Batman. That's my big problem.
So we haven't really given away any spoilers yet. I think it goes without saying, but I am going to say it anyway. Do not watch this if you have not seen Batman vs. Superman. Spoilers, spoilers, spoilers.
We did ruin it for them that
you know the origin
Martha
story.
and Thomas Wayne are killed at the
They're
beginning of this movie.
Oh, God.
Sorry about
I
that.
know that.
we get a nice funeral dirge at the beginning of this movie.
Yeah.
So
You wouldn't believe the idiots I work with. Jamie. Wow.
Wow.
Are you offended by that?
Was that my intro?
Cameron's
Yes.
laughing, man.
You're not an idiot. Don't listen to him.
All right.
Gosh.
Jeez.
Okay, well anyway, after that. So on the whelmed scale, I'm gonna say above whelmed, but not overwhelmed.
It's pretty much Seth.
Yeah, I'd
That's
say
pretty
I was
close.
on par with Seth.
Mhm.
Right off the bat, I didn't like seeing the same opening scene with Batman and his origin, and then I think that did set it up for the whole Martha thing later on, though, when, his father kept saying Martha, so that made sense. But the moment that Batman was lifted by the bats that Jeff mentioned, that was the first dream sequence, and it was the first time that I turned to Josiah and was like, really? What's happening?
Mhm.
So I didn't really appreciate that, but that's just one point. I mean, there's more. But my number was about 7.5 out of 10.
Okay. Brunner, 2.0.
Yeah, definitely. As far as stars go, a 5, solid 5. I think when
Out
it
of
came,
5?
It's a solid.
5 out of 10.
Perfect movie!
No.
It's not a crappy
Hold
five.
on.
It's not an unfulfilled five. It's a rock solid five.
out of 10 stars, 5
There's the
stars.
optimism Pete was missing.
It's like that Flight of the Conchords episode. It gave us a 2 out of 5. I wish that were the case. It was 2 out of 100.
Yeah, as far as like the dream sequences and stuff like that, they kept chopping around, and it was very weird and wrong for me. It didn't fit the movie at all. Especially the way that I don't even know. It's so confusing, and I didn't really understand it all.
Okay, it is jumbled, that's for sure. It's all over the place.
Yeah.
Pawlak, I want to leave off with you. Because I think you kind of summarize a lot of everything we've been feeling.
Right.
So, in essence, is that on par?
To an extent, when I think of this movie, the main point that I feel is that Zack Snyder is a much better choreographer of fight scenes and action sequences than he is a director of a film. And I definitely think that the high point of this movie was its visual flair. DC has a penchant for going a little more dramatic than, say, Marvel does. They like to do the stuff that's over the top, that's bombastic. And you saw this in the action. I mean, here's the big spoiler, Doomsday. I mean, Doomsday was a darn Dragon Ball Z character. You're not going to see that kind of outrageous action typically in a Marvel movie. It's cool to see Black Panther doing cool martial arts and stuff like that, but there's also something stupidly entertaining about watching Superman punch a guy through a building. I like that. It's a little, simple. It's a little, maybe one-dimensional, but I love that outrageous action where you see two guys literally throwing each other throughout a city. And you're going to see more of that, I feel, throughout these DC movies because just by nature, their superheroes are a lot more superpowered than most other characters are in the genre. Superman himself could probably take out the entire cast of Civil War.
Yeah. And, well, Geek Madness would tell us otherwise.
Right.
But Seth actually wrote a piece also that you should check out right at thegeekiverse.com that is a little more into some of the themes and similarities you saw.
Yeah, because I was actually writing that stuff for the review, but it didn't really serve the review, so I just cut it out and I just put in a separate article. But there really is an interesting like allegories with mythology and theology in this movie that are like pretty surface level, kind of like the morality was in The Dark Knight, but it's pretty consistent and it's throughout the movie, and it is really interesting. I think about how there's Lex Luthor's theology about how there's like, you know, he feels betrayed by God because he had like a terrible life, but he you know, he sees Superman as God, but that he sees that he's either all good or all powerful, and he's one or the other. So there's all these like plot devices are kind of like, even though there's like some plot contrivances that don't work quite as well, they kind of are manifestations of those ideas that he has and that he's trying to prove. And then there's like, you know, that there's just this whole gods among us kind of a thing where even like Batman is like a god or like a demigod of, you know, that's like Pluto to Superman's Apollo, and all this really interesting things that I think fits a DC movie adaptation.
So I'm a big fan of the Arkham video games, the Batman Arkham video games. And I actually, before reading over your review, I noticed the same thing, that a lot of the fight sequences seemed like they were almost influenced by that game.
Yeah, straight up.
Isn't that interesting?
Yeah, it was great.
And
yeah.
also a little bit of maybe the look of Injustice Gods Among Us, the video game.
Yes.
To a point.
And the plot, a little bit. Yeah, absolutely.
It's super interesting that they're taken from media such as that, I thought.
That's great. I mean, that's so good, because I feel like that's like the like definitive like modern Batman adaptation of the Arkham games. It's like even like some of the music cues for Batman sounded kind of like some of the Arkham themes to me. It's like
a little bit of violin in the background and
the black on gray costume. I've always wanted to see that in a movie. I'm so glad we finally got that. Enough of the black on black.
It looked good.
Yeah.
I hated it. I absolutely
course
hated
you
it.
did.
I hated the costume because it looked to me like it was sewn together out of a bunch of used inner tubes. Like it was
like Kevlar.
You know,
It
was Kevlar.
But it didn't. I thought you were talking about visual, and then we talked about visual from the fight sequences and stuff like that. From a visual standpoint, you know, I look at that stuff. I have a degree in scenic design. I love that element of a film and stuff like that. I think Tim Burton's Gotham City was a much better Gotham City. I think that the Tim Burton's Batcave was a much better Batcave. I think that like visually, I was sucked into that way more. The Christopher Nolan stuff, it was okay to me. I think the best Batman movie was not George Clooney.
you knew it was on the tip of my tongue.
I knew it was. I think the best Batman movie was Batman with Michael Keaton. I liked it. Visually, I liked it the best. I saw the character with the darkness and the conflict inside of him, things like that. I just liked it way better. And from a visual standpoint, I didn't like his I love Superman's costume. I love Superman's costume in this. I do. I didn't like Batman's costume. I didn't mind the gray and black. I didn't mind that. But it was weak, like the seams in it, and it looked like the inside of an inner tube, all stitched together, with that kind of gray, powdery kind of stuff. Didn't do much for me at all, and I thought that they did a much better. What Zack Snyder does to me is he creates comic book panes very well.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of close-up face stuff, not background stuff.
Yeah.
You know, the way he cinematically does things. There was some things where Superman gets a lighter look, Batman gets a darker look.
Yes.
You know,
it's overall
in the lighting and
desaturated,
stuff
but
like
it
that.
is still, there is a contrast between that.
Right.
Yeah.
And I didn't love that color palette at all. Like that sort of washed out kind of thing didn't do much for me.
I didn't care for his suit overall, actually, for the most part. It looked puffy to me. I thought it was odd. I understand its purpose, but I don't know. I would much rather see Nolan's bat suit. I thought that was more definitive for me. But
well, Well, see,
we all can't be right.
Gray on black.
So-
There's got the book.
What does the Geekiverse newspaper
well,
say?
the geek.
This
the,
isn't 1939 anymore, Seth.
Can you
The
have this
Geekly
sports
1938.
page?
Look at this guy.
The Geekly Planet
The Geekly Planet.
says that
You were so funny today.
I
It's
see
crazy.
nothing. I see nothing but praise for the Affleck costume. So I don't know. I mean, you guys are saying this and that, but
I thought it had the look of someone who's been
award-winning
doing
guy.
that for a few decades. It looked worn. It looked beat up. It looked like he had been wearing that thing for many more years than say Christian Bale's Batman had. And that's what this Batman was—a middle-aged, grizzled Batman.
But you'd think that, like, as Batman who's been doing it for a while, you'd think that he'd have something that wouldn't wear down or anything like that. You know what I
Develop
mean?
it further.
Yeah.
I mean,
Well, it's not a very refined, streamlined look. That doesn't say it isn't functionally
Right.
efficient, and that's
Yeah.
all he would really care about.
Yeah,
You know.
that's
so.
true.
a bullet ain't pretty, but it gets the job done.
Yeah.
Speaking of bullets,
There you have it.
Batman doesn't need guns.
Let's get back to that. Box office
We'll put a
stats.
tag in that one.
So through March 30th, a few little tidbits here. We went through it for Deadpool. Now for Deadpool, we were oohing and ahhing. You're probably not going to be doing that for this so much. Forbes
Aw.
reports the movie so far, impressive. It's 500 million grossed worldwide, which puts it about 193 domestic and 308 million overseas. Okay, about what I expect.
Those are good numbers. Those
Yeah.
are, I mean, those are ooh and ah numbers. There's
Yeah.
no doubt about it. I think it's interesting when we're talking about that the critics panned this movie.
Yes.
Almost to a critic. There's very few people out there who are professional critics who are like, loved it. Not there. Right?
Ours is the highest score I've seen of anyone, for what it's worth.
The audience is split on whether they liked it or not, but the box office is big.
And that's all that matters,
Right.
honestly.
Right. We'll see. I was
Review scores don't
wondering-
matter.
I was wondering whether what happened in this thing, what do they do if it flopped?
I think
Like,
that
what-
they.
If it flopped, what happened?
There's no stopping this train. It's
No.
Yeah, I
like,
think you have to
they
push
couldn't.
through.
Suicide Squad is definitely going to be a bigger hit than
Oh,
this is.
absolutely.
Like that is like there's so much more buzz around that, and I feel
a
like
bigger hit or more critically acclaimed.
Yes.
both.
Yes.
Both.
Both.
Yeah.
I think
Yes.
so.
Even Wonder Woman might be a decent hit, but I feel like it has a better chance of being a more solid and overall product. So I feel like maybe they'll adjust like plans with Justice League, but like the next two movies they have in the pipeline are going to help to build it up.
I agree.
I think those are going to be a lot better strictly because of the people behind the camera on those. Like I said, Zack Snyder is an all-right director. David Ayer, who's doing Suicide Squad, is a brilliant director. And
I actually think the material is more compelling too, honestly.
yeah,
Very
and then
much so.
Patricia Jenkins, who is doing Wonder Woman, is also a brilliant director in her own right.
I couldn't agree more.
That helps big time to have a good, solid director behind the camera.
So right now, obviously, we're less than a week in at filming time for this. Some interesting other tidbits from Forbes. It is currently the 149th all-time in terms of gross, behind Rio and Aladdin.
Wow.
The fourth biggest DC movie, comics-based movie, behind third, Man of Steel, which finished at $668 million. Dark Knight, which was $1.003 billion. And Dark Knight Rises was the top with $1.084 billion. So it's in good company, and we're less than a week in. I think it's going to
So
pass
far.
Man of Steel.
Yes.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's 500 million
Oh, easily.
overall so far.
Without a
Right.
doubt.
I wouldn't say
First few
easily.
days.
Yeah.
Wait, you don't think it's going to pass
No, I think
Man
it-
of Steel?
I think it ultimately will. I don't think it's going to blow past it.
Oh, it's going to blow past it.
I don't think
There's
so.
nothing.
Are you
there's-
seeing this two and
Yeah.
three times?
What's that?
Are you seeing this the second and third time?
No, but there's really nothing on the horizon for the next couple of weeks until Civil War comes out in theaters.
I don't
If
think it's.
people are going to
I
the
think
movies,
it's
they're-
plateaued
that's-
already.
I would
That's
see.
not
I don't
even
know
a
about
few,
that.
that's not even a couple weeks away. That's like 5 or 6 weeks away, right?
Yeah, it's
it's
right
like
around the
early
corner
May.
movie-wise.
Yeah. So I could.
There's plenty of time for this movie to build up.
I'm going to see it again, but you know when I'm going to see it again? When the home material comes out, because
Correct.
I want to see.
Mhm.
I want to see what makes this thing an R-rated movie, and I want
Yeah.
to see.
I want to see the full story. The full vision.
Jenna Malone had that
Yeah.
part. She was in it. That she got cut.
It's probably Barbara Gordon, but not confirmed.
I think somebody's confirmed that now.
I think we
Yeah.
need to see. That's the other thing is we need to see Oracle. If he's this old and Joker's had his way a couple times with him, we got to see an Oracle. I think.
Mhm.
Good point.
Just in contrast, Zootopia currently has $711 million. From Yahoo,
Zootopia's hilarious.
It is
so.
a hilarious movie.
whatever you think of Zootopia, that it's that far ahead is and granted a few weeks, or is it 1 or 2 weeks ahead of Superman? I don't even know.
It's gonna be like 2 weeks.
It's 2. Okay.
10 Cloverfield Lane came out right before.
Regardless, that's impressive.
That's very impressive.
That's past Frozen. The worst audience drop-off over any weekend for any superhero film from Friday to Sunday, with a 55% cut in attendance from that Friday to Saturday. 2 things I think factored in here. Such a huge opening Friday, and secondly, Easter Sunday may have factored into that. I think that's fair to include. The previous record was Fantastic Four from last summer, the Fantastic Flop, as we affectionately call it, which was 48%. From Friday to Saturday, if we
For
rank
the
it that
same
way.
reasons, by the way.
Yeah, a lot of the same reasons.
I absolutely think that Fantastic Four, the
Last summer's-
adaptation that they did there, had the same problems.
I think it had the same feel, actually,
Right,
which is...
right, exactly.
I hate
Well, that
word.
movie
The
had
same realm.
significantly more problems. That movie, the second half of that movie was like made by the studio. Is like that movie?
That movie was a
different
train wreck.
beast than Man.
I think it was as well.
I'm not necessarily comparing them apples to apples, but they're in the same realm. We can't deny that.
Apples to pears?
Apples to pears. You heard it here first.
It's all fruity.
Friday to Saturday, it dropped off 38%, which is second to only Dark Knight Rises at 40%. So we've seen a big drop off already, and that's part of the reasoning that I think that if it gets by Man of Steel, it's not going to be by much.
I'm just not seeing. There, like I said, there's nothing on the horizon for the next few weeks. If people are going to movie theaters,
everyone who wants to see this has seen this already.
I don't know about that yet.
I think that I would only go see it again, maybe because, like you guys said, Civil War is coming out in 5 weeks, so there's not really anything that's going to be good out. And also, just like online, some of the theories that I've heard of where they're taking like the Justice League movies, possibly. I would want to see if there's any connection to like those theories for myself, anyways, just to go like check it out.
We might be looking at another re-release within those 5 weeks as well with the R rating. We guys were talking about earlier, right? Seth?
That's a rumored thing because we all know there's going to be an R-rated extended cut on Blu-ray. There's starting to be some rumors flying around that they might do a limited theatrical run of that, which would be really interesting. I mean, that would be, it would increase the grosses, and I would certainly love that because I really want to see that cut as soon as possible because it's probably a better movie.
That's where the only reason why I'd see it again.
Yeah.
I'm going to see it again. My wife has not seen it yet. I definitely am seeing that again. I would love to get a second look. I feel like the second look is where you can really form your true opinion of a movie. Not always, but you get to look at things a different way. You go in looking for certain things, and it can sometimes make you more favorable on it, or it can usually, I think, after the first time you see a movie, you're on this high. Not always.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's what I did with The Force Awakens. Is I went and saw it a second time, and then I went and saw it a third and a fourth time.
You slow down, right?
Yeah.
You start realizing.
Around your eighth, it's gonna hit you. You start slowing down.
I'm not going to hit him. I'm just like, what are you trying to do? Be like Disney employee of the month or something like that?
Yeah, I mean,
get a nice parking spot?
no, but I mean, I went with other friends,
ears
like
up
my
before.
brother and sister who hadn't seen it before, so.
You better hide your Mickey ears. Just get up. So
Have you seen it the most of anybody sitting here?
No,
How many times?
4 total.
Yeah, 3.
3.
Really?
2, I think.
I saw it 4 times.
Oh, okay.
Pav?
1.
Now Godzilla, I saw Godzilla a few times.
Whoa! The real question is camera.
It's not out yet. It isn't even out in Japan yet. Come on.
I just figured you had seen a bootleg copy. Sorry. Forgive me for prying. So,
He filmed it,
I swam
actually.
already in Japan.
that's why it was his most anticipated film of the year. He filmed the damn thing.
He took bottles in his basement.
Guys, please go see it.
I can't wait till it comes out now. I'm excited to see it, actually.
I'm gonna go see Camera. I want to see what
I
Pawlak.
absolutely
I hope it comes to America. For all I know, it's not even going to make it here.
I can't wait till the end of the year when we're wrapping up. We talk about all of our picks, and Jeff's like, it never even made it.
Will you write the English subtitles?
I'll do the
yourself?
subtitles. I will do the
You
subtitles.
should do all the voices for
He's
it.
gonna localize
Camera's
it.
going to be very vulgar when he roars.
And that's why I've come to save you, all you stupid Geekiverse people. Oh, man. We're definitely going to do a part 2 of this, so I want to wrap up part 1 here with the marketing and build up for this. Early on, we had a show that we talked about probably in early December. The build up, we weren't excited for it. The hype was wrong. The trailers were underwhelming. And it didn't do much to get me excited. Pete excited. I think Jeff was in the same boat.
No, I was excited.
How excited? So were you let down by this?
On the
No, not at all.
well-nometer, where were you?
No, not at all. It was pretty much exactly what I expected it to be.
Same here. Well, I was intrigued. I think they did a lot wrong with the marketing. And from your article a few weeks back, where the leak with the cut, the extended edition, they're already talking about that before the movie had even hit theaters, which tells you that they needed to build extra hype. And then also, it just seemed like it went in already under the gun. It seemed like it had a lot to prove, and it shouldn't be that way for such an epic movie.
I feel like this is one of those movies that
We also saw the first trailer, sorry to cut you off,
Yeah.
20 months ago.
Yeah, it's been in
Really
production
that
for a
long?
while. It was in post-production for a long time. They've been done filming for a while. But just briefly, the extended cut, I don't think that was made public via an official announcement. I think that would just popped up on like a ratings website that it was like classified and people reported on it. So I don't think that was officially announced.
The glory of the internet.
A lot of leaks are fabricated, though. You know, like, they did
Yeah,
that.
I mean,
That's how Deadpool got made.
that's very much how Deadpool got made. So
Thank you, leaks.
yeah, so I don't know. Yeah, maybe it was intentional, maybe it wasn't. But yeah, I feel like it's one of those movies that people, you know, since Man of Steel, I feel like they've kind of had a negative view of what DC is doing, and I feel like there's been, you know, justified concerns, but I feel like there's been a fair amount of just like people just not liking it just because, and that's a degree. That's kind of like, you know, they don't really want to give it as much of a chance as it should be. Because I've heard so many people saying, I was just at Queen City Bookstore talking to the guy there who actually really liked it, and he was saying that like he didn't understand like how much negativity. I think for the negativity that it's gotten, it's really for the most part it's not really warranted because it is a good movie.
I agree with that sentiment. I think it's getting an unfair rap in some sense. It is messy. It is a little unfocused at times. It tries to be too much. But you know what? I enjoyed it. First thing I said, I turned to Beta and Jamie. I'm like, I enjoyed it. Like I liked this movie.
It has its issues, but it's
Critically-
good. It's not a bad movie.
No, it's not a bad movie.
I looked back at Joe and I went, eh. So,
But you know what? You're at a point.
Guy over here.
I know you're trying to wrap it up here, but you're at a point
This
where it costs a lot of money to go to a movie. I mean, you drop almost in the neighborhood of $10 for a ticket.
15.
My freeze frame, my mom's
18
there.
for me. Gosh.
And then you throw on top of that like the super overpriced,
Could have bought a game.
watered down fountain drinks and popcorn
get a
and stuff
free
like that. You're talking about in the neighborhood of $40 for a couple people to go to a movie. And you know, I want to walk out of a movie with more than just yeah, it was an alright movie. I want more than that. And this time around, I got that. And like I said, I went back and watched Man of Steel afterwards. Couldn't figure out the first time I saw Man of Steel, and it was a long time ago. I haven't seen it again. I couldn't figure out what I didn't like. You know, and what I didn't like was Zack Snyder.
Interesting. I actually watched it the night before. I went to see BvS, and you know, I caught up on the whole DCEU in one night, and it was kind of boring. I liked it, and I remember liking it a lot. And I watched it back and I was like, "Oh, this is long to get through."
I got the same feeling from Batman vs Superman that I got from Man of Steel.
Okay.
Right? Like I walked out not being like, "Wow, it was exciting." I didn't, you know, like I just didn't love it. And you know, like I've never been a huge DC movie fan. I haven't. Even the Christopher Reeve Batman or Christopher Reeve Superman. You know, other than of the 5 Batman movies leading up to the Christopher Nolan stuff, I really only liked a couple of those. You know, like it's just DC's not my thing.
What 5 are you talking about?
The early
4.
90s.
Are you talking about like the
Is
Burton
it
and the
4?
Schumacher movies?
Two Michael Keatons.
Yeah.
And
Val
Val
Kilmer
Kilmer and
and
Clooney.
That's it. Okay,
Cherry
so
on
it's just
top.
4. I'm sorry,
Okay.
my bad.
Sure,
My
yeah.
I hear Clooney, and my mind instantly says Gene.
Gene.
And not in a good way.
My mind instantly says Danny DeVito, and I think the best.
That was it. Was
This
you
guy.
know what? It was
This
like
guy.
it was Batman Superman weekend. So like any channel you turned on,
Oh, yeah.
it was one of those
Yeah.
movies. You know,
Oh, yeah.
I caught Batman or Dark Knight Rises.
Yeah.
Watched Man of Steel. You know,
Not for nothing.
watched
Batman-
Batman Returns.
Gotcha. Batman beat Superman in our Geek Madness. So
That's
the public has spoken.
That's surprising.
Anyway, we're gonna wrap up part 1 here real quick. Where can we find everybody on Twitter?
At Trevor_White_.
At Peter.
At Jeffrey Pobbs.
At Jamie Lynn Leroy.
At Cap Amerikanski.
It's great.
Wow.
It's great. Yeah. Wow.
At Jeff D_Beta.
Epic. I am at Josiah D. LeRoy. You can catch us on social media, Facebook.com/The Geekiverse, Twitter and Instagram. We are at @_Geekiverse, also Snapchat, and then iTunes and YouTube, of course, just search The Geekiverse. For everybody here, I'm Josiah LeRoy. Thanks for watching. Be sure to catch part 2.